ASMR. We've all heard of it by now. It is pretty much everywhere these days. But have you ever wondered what it is, how it works, and how beneficial it is? Well, if you haven't, then you're in the right place. And if you already have, don't click off just yet, as I'm sure you'll find something in this video, or perhaps this series, that will help you develop your own conclusions further. Hello there, and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be presenting you the introduction to a series that, as the title suggests, aims at analyzing ASMR as a phenomenon. In this series, I'll be focusing on different aspects of it. Psychological, biological, and towards the end of the series, I will touch on a bit of philosophy as well. I will also highlight and insist on more negative aspects of ASMR, rather than on positive ones, simply because you can find the positives listed everywhere. The negatives usually are the ones that are harder to find and which, in my opinion, are the aspects that offer more learning potential. I have thought about this topic for quite a while now, and I hope that presenting the ground that I treaded so far would suffice for a solid starting point for this discussion, because essentially, as I see it, this is the beginning of a dialogue. So feel free to continue the conversation and interact by sharing your own opinion or experiences in the comments below, or through my socials. You can find the links in the description. Couple of disclaimers before we start. I am not an academic, not a scientist, not an expert, but I do try to learn as much as possible, and I also try to base my theories in proper science. Although, how I interpret the science is also through an amateur perspective. My expertise, so to speak, comes from my own personal experiences with ASMR and my own analysis of the subject. But I do recognize my own bias that comes with that, and in regards to my own perceptions and the nature of my observations. So don't take everything I say at face value. I instead would encourage you to filter it through your own skepticism. Alright, so let's begin. I will start by laying some groundwork with a few basic facts, presenting a little bit about ASMR in general. Perhaps there are some of you who don't know what ASMR is, or that have heard of it but don't really know what it entails. ASMR is short for Autonomous Sensory Meridian Response, a non-scientific term which first appeared on some forum posts in 2007-2008. It was initially coined to represent a pleasant sensation popularly called tingles, a sensation kind of described like an energy wave starting from the scalp, moving down the neck and upper spine. It is similar to that type of chills we get when listening to good music, called frisson. The difference being here that tingles can last for prolonged periods of time. The term later began to refer to more than just this sensation. Once videos specifically designed to invoke the tingles made their appearance on YouTube, the word ASMR began to be simultaneously synonymous with the sensation, what I would call the ASMR effect, with the videos, the genre, and the phenomenon as a whole. Since what we're talking about here is a subjective experience, the ASMR effect presents the challenge of even being identified. Most people don't even know they experience it and consider it to be normal. It is only after they are exposed to the term and what it represents that this subjective feeling is granted an identifiable label. ASMR as a phenomenon is relatively new. Its popularity only really started to take off exponentially in 2014-2015, with the number of ASMR videos increasing sufficiently to create a whole genre. The exact reason behind this rapid growth is unclear, although it does seem to broadly coincide with a worldwide rise in the cases of depression, rise of anxiety in young adults, and also an apparent increase in loneliness in recent years. In a paradoxical way, this is possibly due to the hyperconnectivity of our generation and the overuse of social media. But anyway, the relationship between the two aspects, ASMR and the rise of mental health problems, is mainly present due to the numerous anecdotal reports that ASMR is capable of alleviating symptoms of these issues. So far, it's all well and good. The ASMR phenomenon and its subsequent community on YouTube has a noble endeavor at the core, which is to help people better manage their difficult modern lives. Community seems to be very positive, the phenomenon is thriving, more and more ASMR channels are appearing each day, and many of the existing ones are getting more and more creative with their videos, which is probably one of the main attractions for ASMR artists to make videos in the first place. But the reality is that it's not that simple and it's not that positive either. There are potential problems with ASMR which could get quite tricky in the long run, and I will tackle exploring them extensively in this series. I think this discussion is absolutely crucial. Because ASMR has been flourishing so extensively in the past few years, we as a community need to take a little bit of a breather, look around us, and ask ourselves some difficult questions. Okay, is this actually good? Are we on the right path? Should we adapt in some way to improve further? That way, we make a distinction between what is potentially bad from what is good. Okay, so let's delve into it. First of all, let's discuss a bit about the nature of the ASMR effect and how ASMR videos affect us. What is really happening while watching one? In what order do these effects occur? In an interview done by Wired published in May 2019, Dr. Nick Davis of Manchester Metropolitan University stated that there are definitely physiological responses in people's bodies when they view ASMR videos. Their heart rate will slow down, their skin's electrical responses will change, and those responses are presumably triggered by a psychological state, associating the video with a sense of comfort or calmness. He concludes that these two, the physiological responses and the psychological state, are related, but we don't know how yet. This sounds to me like there's a chicken or the egg type of question floating in the air. Which one is first? The feeling of calmness or the tingles? As it appears that one might depend on the other and vice versa. I will make the case that the physiological response is the first one to appear, which itself could induce the psychological state of calmness and relaxation. If it were the other way around, it would mean that for the ASMR effect to occur, a feeling of calmness and relaxation would be needed as a prerequisite, which would make the discovery of the effect itself particularly difficult. You would need to watch an ASMR video in a pre-relaxed state in order for the tingles to happen, and thus to understand the purpose of the ASMR video. Otherwise, if that prerequisite is not met, then it is much more likely that you might feel extremely uncomfortable because of the close proximity aspect. But that isn't the case, and I can anecdotally confirm that many times in my life, the ASMR effect has taken me by surprise in a variety of situations. That's how I discovered ASMR videos and the ASMR phenomenon in the first place. I was basically struck by the tingles first. Even if initially I did feel uncomfortable, that was because it was so unusual, it was so new. And it also makes sense from an evolutionary standpoint that the biological response is the first one. In the same interview mentioned earlier, Dr. Nick Davis also states that his theory of how the ASMR effect came to be is that ASMR could be a universal feeling found in mammals, and it could have emerged in a parental bonding environment. We know, for example, that a mother's voice is soothing to her child because it facilitates the release of endorphins. And we also know that a human child can hear his or her mother's voice even before being born. The ASMR effect seems to be an even more primitive innate mechanism that essentially has the same soothing functionality, which is to regulate brain chemistry in some way, but in circumstances that predate spoken language-based communication, such with the case of apes, where touch and close proximity is the main avenue to convey to a newborn that sense of comfort and protection. Regarding the release of endorphins, the anecdotal evidence and the characteristics of the ASMR effect, as well as the ASMR videos themselves, seem to suggest that it does indeed influence neurochemistry in some way. In what manner and capacity, that remains to be seen and researched. ASMR is a very interesting phenomenon to explore, because the experience is very idiosyncratic. Triggers for the ASMR effect vary from person to person. One person's favorite sound can be another's reason for a misophonic response. And it also seems that the reasons why ASMR works are unique to each individual. For example, a specific trigger could be reminiscent of a unique childhood memory. This presents the problem that research is especially tricky to tackle in such conditions, since there is very little actual common ground. Very few characteristics of ASMR triggers are consistent across the entire ASMR space. Thus, even if anecdotally ASMR is said to help with depression, anxiety, insomnia, loneliness and more, it is hard to draw a solid conclusion that it actually does so in a consistent and effective way. I would note that a certain amount of the placebo effect could be at play here, as well as the possibility that certain cultural and social factors would put pressure in such a way that a need is born for this conclusion to be believed. It is hard to imagine that there is absolutely nothing negative about the ASMR phenomenon. There are negatives and drawbacks in everything. Yet the current status quo sustains the idea that the ASMR phenomenon offers simple solutions to highly complex and long unresolved issues, which would be fantastic if it turns out to be true. But until we know for sure through research, such stances are, in my opinion, a bit premature. And I also want to make it absolutely clear that I am not denying the validity of the positive claims made by ASMR. I am simply stating that if something works at the individual level, that success doesn't necessarily translate to the phenomenon as a whole, and that key distinction is very blurry at the moment. In my opinion, out of all the solutions offered by the ASMR phenomenon, insomnia and tinnitus are two issues towards which ASMR displays the most merit in solving, or at least ameliorating. Both issues require the person to shift their focus away from pervasive factors, such as overthinking or ringing in one's ear. And white noise is also a helpful factor in the case of tinnitus as well. And so the effectiveness of ASMR in regards to these two issues is pretty self-evident. So, ASMR poses a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of unknowns, which is why research into this field is paramount at this time. Luckily, there have been developments lately to unify research efforts in a coordinated, perhaps even multidisciplinary approach. This endeavor is being spearheaded currently by the ASMRnet team, in order to help advance research in a way that also involves the ASMR community, which I think is fantastic. Maintaining this level of engagement is a good choice, not only to strengthen the bond between academia and the public, but also to create a better, more unified ASMR space, which in turn will only help attract further funding for more research efforts. If you'd like to learn more about ASMRnet team and their mission, I will post a link to their website in the description below. And on this note, we conclude the first part of this ASMR series. We will continue to tackle all sorts of interesting subjects later down the line, so please stay tuned. Once again, feel free to express your opinion or experiences in the comments below. I am really curious and would love to hear what the community thinks. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you soon.